Way back in 1991, Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web, a global network of documents that could link together. To make sure these documents adhered to a standard format, he used HTML, a semantic markup language. It could only handle text though, so soon the image tag was introduced, and now all our documents had cat pictures in them. In order to make those documents look prettier with different fonts and spacing and colours, cascading style sheets were introduced. And then finally, to make these documents more like applications that could interact with the user and the server, JavaScript was added. So if you want to make a web page, you need to know about HTML, CSS and JavaScript. But if you want to do the back end as well, there is a whole raft of languages that you will encounter. And you might have to learn one or two of them. And if you want to do databases, you might need to learn SQL as well. There's a whole range of disciplines. Wouldn't it be better if there was a single language we could use to write both client code and server code? Hi, my name's PJ Evans. Nice to meet you. I'm very excited to be sharing this programming course with you, even if I am just currently a bundle of ones and zeros on your computer screen. Now, I've been programming since medieval times, and it's rare that I get excited about a programming language the way I have about Node. Node is a real sea change in the web application programming landscape, because JavaScript is everywhere. It's absolutely taking over, and Node now brings JavaScript to the server side as well. I also like it because it has an amazing community behind it. Node, as we will learn, is made up of modules. These modules are reusable portions of code, a bit like classes if you've come across those before, but all packaged up and sandboxed off from your main application. Now what that means is it's very easy to take these pieces of a jigsaw and put them together in the order you want to make your application. It saves you an awful lot of time, and you'll be really surprised how much you can do in just a small bit of code. But we're going to get to all that. This module is mainly about just me introducing myself, letting you know what's going to be in the course, and don't worry, we're going to get you down to doing some coding real soon. Node, as I'll call Node.js from now on, just to shorten it up a little bit, is a bit different from other programming languages you've come across before on the server side. Things like Python, PHP, Ruby. If you've got experience in those languages, this is going to be a little different. If you're coming from the JavaScript side and you've played with things like jQuery and understand terms like callbacks, it might be a little more familiar to you. So we're going to try and go through that together, and we're going to work out how this different way of coding works. It does require your brain turning into scrambled eggs on occasions, but once it clicks, it really does click. So let's learn a bit more about Node.js. Let's start by looking at a traditional web application. First, we have the browser. The browser requests a file from a web server. I've just chosen Nginx here. It could be Apache or any number of other types. It then has to go off to an application, to a block of code, and run it to get the result. In this case, Ruby. This code may have access to other resources, like a file system or a database, to go and calculate the answer it needs to give back to the user. Then all the data is sent back and the web page is rendered. Let's have a look at that for Node. We have our browser, but the browser talks directly to Node. Node can be a web server, and in most of the examples we're going to give you, Node is actually doing the job of the web server, whether it be Apache or Nginx, as well as running the code of the application. It's one less link in the chain. And it also can talk to file systems and databases and such like to get the answer back to the user. There are some great advantages in this model, especially when it comes to real-time applications, but we're going to get to all that. Another difference with Node is the way it handles multiple requests. This is a core feature. Let's say we've got a whole group of users going to the web server at once. In a typical model, you've got to get to the same web server. All of them are looking at one instance of the web server, and it is desperately trying to handle all the requests. But what it does to achieve that is create multiple instances of the application, one for each user. So now you've got a whole host of Ruby applications running on the same machine. It's threading them out, and the result comes back. This is not the case with Node. Let's have a look at our users again. And now they're talking to one instance of Node.js. not only to handle the web traffic, but also to run the application. And it is a single threaded process. This means there's only one of them at any given time, and it's got to handle everybody. Now, how it does that is by having an architecture called asynchronous non-blocking. That means it needs to get through its code as quickly as possible in order to get the responses back to all those users. Sounds a bit hairy, but it's actually not that bad. But it is different from a more traditional model such as PHP or Python, say. Now, don't worry if that was all clear as mud. We're going to be going over that a lot more in depth as the course goes on, and then I'm sure it will all become clear. JavaScript was written over the course of 10 days in 1995. It first featured in Netscape Navigator 3. It had a bit of a reputation of being a slow language, a bit clunky, some unusual behaviours as you went between browsers. Now, Google rewrote JavaScript from the ground up in 2008, and that was the inspiration for Node being created, because what came out was so blisteringly fast, it was suitable for writing server-side applications on. Also, standards have improved. The latest standard for JavaScript is called ES6 or ECMA Script 2015. That is a real push forward in how the language operates and the things you can do. And it is one that Node is based on. And the version of Node we're going to be using, which is version 8, fully implements ES6. So why do you want to learn Node.js? Actually, don't answer that. I'm a computer screen. That makes no sense. I can tell you why I wanted to learn Node.js. Firstly, it's JavaScript. So as a full-stack developer, flipping between client development and server development, sometimes a minute each side, it's brilliant to be working in the same language. It's also incredibly fast. And the module system is amazing. I mean, tens of thousands of reusable pieces of code that you can install completely free of charge, do everything from padding a string to implementing an entire email server in a couple of lines of code. The event-driven asynchronous nature of it makes it perfect for writing real-time web applications where a constant data stream is going between the client and the server. But you'll see that. And I think finally the portability. The fact that it works on Linux, it works on Mac, it works on Windows, with very little to differentiate it. It's one of the most compatible languages I've ever dealt with. So, let's get on to Module 2. What are we going to learn on this course?